and share. Right. Move the chat. Move the faces here. Right now, if you if you ask me if you ask me to do everything here in this function, the whole function here, without looking at the steps at all, I will be like fucked. Actually, there are 7 steps, and I will explain each one here. So basically, first we need to identify the user, right? We already have the socket ID, right? When the user log in, we already have the socket ID and the username together with the socket ID, and we will use the socket ID to check the user. And this function is gonna return the instance of this class here. So basically, this class here will have the user in here. So I'm going to type user, for example. This class will have a user. It will have a couple of methods that we will define later. More methods, right? Let's go back to the here. And then we're going to use the instance here in order to manipulate, we can do a lot of things. For example, we can join the user, like put a user into a room, for example, or we can remove the user from a room. We can also chat. We can also have a chat function of chat method for that user. Basically, we can do a lot of things. We can also customize the error message or the system message. For example, here in the user story, we have some. I have a requirement here like user to see system message, right? Notifying if the user enter or leaving the room, right? We can customize those messages inside our class as well, our server class. So basically, we can create a lot of methods to help us do things. And okay, first we log in, we check the user, and this kind of like login is kind of like checking the token in Express app, right? So basically, we have a auth middleware. So this is kind of like an auth middleware. But we don't just simply return a user object, but we return a custom instance of our class here. And then this function here is to join a room, right? So that's why the next step, we're going to join that user, put that user into a room. And there's a lot going on behind here, this function here. Basically, let me do it first, this one first, and then I will explain one by one. So I'm going to copy all of this. First, I'm going to create oh, ew, I have so many things here. So I have rooms, I have login, and then after login, I'm gonna join a room, right? Socket dot on, and here's joining a room, and this I'm gonna use async because anyway we're gonna deal with the database, always deal with the database, so we should use async. And here, okay, function. Right now I don't know what we want to do here, but let's do it. Okay, when you want to join a room, you need to. So how do you identify which room the user is going to join? The user is joining. Right? When a user join a room, we need two piece of information: who is that user, right? And which room. So yes, room ID. We already know who that user is by using the socket.id, right? Socket.id will represent a user. And so the other piece of information will be the ID of the room. So Bao said room ID is correct. And how do we get that room ID? So how do we get that room ID? Boom. So let's think. Let's think. Just answer. Just like try to brainstorm. So how do we get that room ID? And where do we send it? on the front end here, if you take a look at the rooms list here, we actually have the room ID, element ID. Okay, so here I'm gonna create another on click. Yes, exactly on click here. And this on click is gonna send, let's say, cons join room, right? And this is gonna be an function. What the hell? Okay, this function will have, I will put this function here, right? And we will use the ID as an argument here. So I'm going to call this one ID. Okay, and in this function, we will send trigger an event, and that event we already define join room. So I'm going to do socket dot emit, right? And here the name of the event join room, and the data here is the data, right? That's it. So for now, just leave it here. Okay. So join room will do socket.emit and join this room with this ID. This is the room ID. Okay, I'm gonna save. Nothing wrong. So go back to the backend. In this function, this event, we have something called ID, right? We got it from the client. And then here we have 7 steps. The first step, checking user, right? Checking user and return an instance, a server instance. So I'm going to do call server. Let's call server. Call server equal to await server dot check user. You can name it differently. You don't have to follow my naming. So what do we need here? We need the socket.id, right? We need the socket.id. I'm gonna save. No, don't save it. So here, as you can see here, we actually run on the class itself. So we need a static method, static scene, and this is going to be check user, and we have the room ID or the socket ID, and this method is gonna return an instance of the class. So I'm going to how do we check? How do we check now? So I'm going to do this user equal to user. So we got a user from here. So this user equal to user. So we can use this inside the class. All right. So how do we find it? Cons user equal to await user dot find one, and what is the condition? What is the condition? The condition is token socket ID. Okay. There always, or maybe not always, but there's at most maximum one document that match the condition. Right? Always. Maximum is one document. And then we can do return something like this, new server, and then we pass in the user here. Okay. So we create a new instance of the server with the user object inside this, right? So return new user. I think we have to mention something here. What if there is no user? What if the token is wrong? The socket ID is wrong somehow. The socket ID doesn't match any token in our database. We don't know how they can do that, but let me talk. Finish this slide. We don't know, like the hacker or someone can mess with our socket API or socket server, and they will send another socket ID that will not match any tokens field, any value inside our token field in the collection user collection. So we're going to If we have to check if not user, we have to throw error. So new error socket ID dot file, for example, token not file or user not file, just user not file for that socket ID. Please log in again. Please log in, for example. And then if their user, we return a user, right? So question from Wing. So this dot user get updated with the new user file in like 20. Yes, yes. Basically, it's not really, yeah, it's the user file on line 20, but the instance is created on line 22 here. And then inside the whole class here, we can use, for normal method, we can use this dot user in the normal method, but for static, we don't use this. We rarely use this. Right? So, all right. Mm, so, what do we do next? So let's say I'm gonna console log the user here, not console log. So const server equal await server dot check user. We pass in the socket ID and we return a class, an instance here. So finish checking user and return an instance. So step 2, what was it? Forgot. If you have the lab open next to you, you can copy and paste it on the chat so I don't have to tap. So basically, we want to join the put the user inside the room, and we're gonna call this method. I'm gonna copy this one here. So we want to update the database when the user join a room, right? So we have two places to update. The first place is the user.room here, right? User.room. The second one is the room.members, right? Room.members and room.members. So we have to update two places, right? Okay, we have to update two places. So I'm going to do await server. The server here, from the server instance here, we know which user it is already. So basically, it's kind of like a user. And then we can say anything here. For example, I want to join the room, and here is the room ID, right? The ID here is the room ID. If it's so hard to see, I'm gonna say ID here so that we understand this is the ID of the room. ID. Okay, so we're gonna create this method here. Method join room. This method we also have async, and we have ID. Cool. So now we need to update two places, the user.room and the room.members. So let's do one by one. I think we should do room.members first. So we need to find the rooms. We need to find the rooms, right? The room, right? Based on the ID here. Const room equal await, and then we have to use room and then find one. Inside file one, we have to pass it. Actually, we can use file by ID, right? File by ID, and then we pass the ID here. So in order to call this class, I'm gonna move this one up. So in order to call this class, we have to import it. And this one's gonna be room, this one's gonna be room, right? Okay, error, throw new error, cannot override room model once compile. Ha, where is it? Model, what is that? Room require models, room, some weird error here. Cannot override room model once compiled. So it failed on line 16. On room and line 16, model is boss, model is boss equal mongoose, model room schema. What's wrong with this? I'm gonna save it. I know what happened. Save this one. Still crash on server here. Uh, what's wrong? Mm, hang on. File by ID. It failed on util server line number 2. All right, something wrong here. Cons room require models rooms. What's wrong with this? Do you have any idea? Cons room, and then do we use any room here? Why do I have room here? Oh, because I have room file here. No. Charge models and rooms, models and room. What the hell? Why do I have capital R here? No idea. Why do I have capital R here? I don't know. Make sure you don't copy and paste that from me. All right, I fixed that somehow. And next, we have the room, and we also have room.members, right? And room.members right now, the first time we join the room is empty. It's an array and it's empty, so we can push. Now we can push this dot user dot id. So where the hell we got it from? We got it from here, right? This dot user is from here. It's equal. It has the value of the user object from mongoose, and in that we have a property called lodash id. So we're gonna push this id into the room.members here, the room.members here, right? But actually, before we push, we have to check if room.members includes includes. We have to check if it include the user ID already. I'm gonna enter. If it doesn't include that, we're gonna push the ID into the array. Else, so if and what is this? And else, so I'm gonna have this and then push it in up here, right? Else, do we need else? I don't think we need else. So if we don't have it, what's wrong? If and else. So if it's already there, so we don't have to do it anymore. We just do something like uh, oh yeah, we don't actually need to push. There's no need. There's no need for else. If it's not in the array, we push. If it's already in the array, we don't do anything because it's already inside. So next step, we need to update. Where is it? We need to update the user.room as well. So we already have rooms.members. Now we need the user.rooms, and here I have to save await room.save. We save the rooms, right? We save the room document. Then outside here, we're gonna do the next step. We need to use user.room, and here we have this.user.room will be equal to this room ID, right? And then we save it, this.user.save, save, right? And That's pretty much it. But for some reason, I want to change the value here a little bit. You need to do a wait here. So this is user. So now the room here will be just an ID, right? I don't want it just to be an ID. I want it to be the object, room object. So I reassign it. This user room equal to room here, right? And that's it. That's it for this method. There's a tricky part here. If we don't have this line, so this user.room, and we will use it later on inside our function here. This user.room will be an ID. And so in the future, if we want to use a room object, we need to find one or find by ID again. So it's a waste of time and waste of computing, computing power or computing resource. So I reassign right here, right? Cool. So now inside our server instance, we have this dot user, and inside this dot user, we also have another object called room. This dot user dot room. Right? So do we need like 32? 32. Yeah, we do need this in order to save the data, in order to save this information to our database, right? We need to save the mongoose object ID, right? And then after we save, we right away we will like revert it, reassign it to an object instead of just an ID. So this is just an ID. But now, or you can do populate, but I don't want to do populate because we already have the object here. So that why the hell do we have to do populate after this? You can just reassign room object to this dot user dot room, right? Save you the computing power. So why don't we have line for 34, then save it without 34, right? I don't want to actually, I want to use reference here, right? It's better to use reference with just an ID. If I put like 34 here, replace line 32 with the line 34, the room here is going to be an object, right? And I don't want to use embedding, right? Cool. So save the ID database. So 33 to save the ID to the database. 34 is like, it's kind of like to populate from the ID, right? It's just like how you do populate the field that you want to receive an object instead of just an ID, because later on we might use the ID, the room object, not the ID. We already have the ID. We want to see the object. Embed in new ID reference. 32. No. 32 is reference, right? To add the ID. So this one will be an ID only. And then 34, instead of doing populate, right? Because you already know when you do populate, it's actually run a query. And why the hell do we want to run a query again if we already have the object here? Yeah, exactly. We only save the ID to our database. And then if you want, you have to do populate. You have to run a query in order to populate the object from the ID. But right now, I already have the object here, so I don't need to actually query again, right? So I just reassign it. So now when you join the room, you add the ID, you add a member, the ID of the member to the rooms, the member array already finished. And we also modify the field room inside the user as well. That's a lot. Right, so we finished step number 2. Right, step number 3. Yeah, thank you, Bao. Right, thank you. I'm going to copy step number 3 here and update the current room to the client. Uh, it's kind of like update the current room to the clients. It's kind of like telling the client, okay, this is the information of the current room, for example, who, like, whoever in that. So actually we need to use something called socket.image, right? Image, and we have selected room. Okay, selected room. And then selected room here, we will send a data and we already have the data here. Aha. It's going to be server dot user dot room. Okay, room. Right. Okay, so if you now go back to your front end, and then inside the rooms here, actually you see I had, for example, cons room and set room. So this is your current room. You state it's gonna be at first it will be no, and then you have something like that. I'm gonna say selected room. So this is the current room that we are in. So we need to let the user know or the client knows. So also data and then set room. Remember one with S and one without S. With S mean the whole list, and without S mean just this one. I'm not sure why we need this. Right, whatever. Just one more extra step. Data should be an object, right? Should be an object. It should be a room object. So we can have a couple of information inside this object. For example, how many user inside that, or who's the admin, who's the moderator, or we can have the name of the user in that room as well. If you want to do it, you just populate it on the backend. So we have that information. So now you can actually cancel off room if you want, right? You can cancel room if you want, but for now just leave it there. Okay, step 4. 4, subscribe to a channel. This one is important. So what we have done is just modifying our database. We haven't like really put the user into the channel. So now we need to put the user into a channel, and the term you use that for that action is actually subscribe. So you need to subscribe that user to the channel. So for example, if I click on this channel, I subscribe to Chrome channel. And I don't use text Chrome. Actually, I use the ID. And we already have the ID. Here we already have the ID. So we can do something like this: socket dot join. I think, yeah, join. And if you don't know which one to use, you can actually go socket.io. I think there should be a resource. Learn documentation, and here there should be, oh, this cheat sheet, right? So you have a cheat sheet here. There's a bunch of stuff you can use. So you can use socket dot join. I think I remember join. It's not here. It's not inside the image. It's room and namespace. All right. So you can join here using this syntax: socket.join and the name of the rooms, right? Socket.join. Guys, whenever we use a library, we need to read the documentation and how we need to know how to read it, right? We don't learn from just video. We learn on how to read the documentation, and that's how developer works, reading the documentation always. So we join. What do we join? Mm-hmm. We join the room ID. So this is going to be our room name. The ID here, just the ID. And that's why I said we don't actually need a unique in the name of a room here. Nguyen actually told me, he told me about require unique here, but it's not necessary because we use the ID, right? And then socket.join ID. And what's the next step? I think this one is okay. Yeah. And send welcome message to the client. I'm gonna copy and paste from the chat. Okay, you want to send a welcome message to the client. How do we send a welcome message? Can someone help me? What does it mean, like sending a welcome message? You can guess from the comment here. So how do we send a welcome message? You should know this from yesterday. If you we emit to client a welcome message. Yes. So we going to socket.emit. So and the event we use is messages. I think, yeah, the event is messages, right here. In the lab, I think I actually use message without s, but here I use with s, so it's different. Remember, it's different. I never write code the same way I did. Actually, yeah, last night I went back and changed a couple of things in the lab. All right, so you emit a message to the client, and what should be the message there? Here. So it's an object, right? So yesterday we used an object, so it's an object. And for the object, we have the name, right? So the name, I'm going to use system, right? So this one is not a user, it's a system. So system, and then the message is, I don't know, do we use a message? If you go back to the app, and here's how you define the message. All right, you have text and name, right? Text and name. So we have name is a system. System means our backend server. You can use server.user.name. Yes, but right here we can use, say, for example, text is uh, for example, well welcome server, just like we type there. So I'm not gonna server.user.name. Welcome someone to where? To another variable, server dot user dot name dot user dot no dot name, not room dot name. The room dot name. As you can see here, you have the name of the room, right? So server dot user, and inside that user we have a room, and that room is an object, right? It's not an ID now. It's not an ID. It's an object, and then we have name inside the object, right? So that's why I had this line here, right? Doesn't look that pretty, so I'm gonna enter, and yeah. Okay, cool. Step number 6. Okay. So sending notification to all the client, right? So now we send one message to the user, another message is to all the client inside that room, or inside that channel. We do socket dot to, and to, here's the name of the channel, and what's the name of the channel? ID. Okay, so when you call, you should keep asking yourself the question. Okay, this function, how many arguments it should have, right? And what's the first argument? What's the second argument? And shit, and that's not a string. And so the first argument, what should it be? It's an ID of the room, right? A room name or a channel name, and we don't actually use a channel name. We use a ID of the room. So we put the ID here, and then we broadcast. Is it broadcast? Yeah, and then we emit. Okay, broadcast and then emit, and we emit what message again? Uh, emit to messages, right? This event, this channel, and this event, this channel and this event, and the message here's the message. It's kind of like similar to this, so I'm gonna copy and I'm gonna change a little bit. Yeah, right. So I'm gonna change the name here. Name is system as well, but the text is who had joined the server. Uh, server user name had joined the server. So that's it. Right. You can customize them any way you want, but basically just put it like that. Step number 7, update rooms. So I'm gonna copy the text here and then put it here. So basically, if you take a look at the app here, app here, not this one. Actually, actually you cannot click cancel. I actually recall the function, always recall the function. So let's say and then I'm gonna chat that right there again. So here you can see when I join. Oh, actually there are 2 persons joining it. When you join the room, right, you can see right away the number is updated right away. So that means we update the room globally, like we send it to other users, and other user will see that we are actually how many user in each room real time. Oh, sorry. So we update the room globally, and what should I have in here? We already did that. We already did this. Can someone help me with that? It's very simple, just one line. Actually, you can copy and paste that line as well. It's already inside our code. Can anyone guess? And this is gonna be the last steps. What's happening? You got kicked out. Oh my god. Uh, uh, ha ha ha. There is correct. So it's right up here. It's not IO, but it's socket. Oh yes, IO. Exactly, it's IO. So we're gonna copy this or not. So we're gonna do it here. IO. So we want to tell everyone, or we want to update globally. We update every client to emit, and the name of the event is rooms. Wait, and I'm gonna copy Jerry's room.find. That's it. Okay. Oh, if you look up on the internet, basically people will use the same. For example, if they have the same event messages, but for messages they have different action. For example, create a new message or delete a message. They call action, and in that you're gonna have an, for example, in the object, you're gonna have another field called action. And on the front end, depend on this action, you're gonna do different things, right? Just saying. Step 7, and if it's done, I think everything is done. When you join a room, and everything is done. Okay. So also the syntax for broadcast is socketed to something broadcast image. That is when you want to send something inside a channel. Something there means channel, the channel ID. Wait, what is it to? Okay, it's a channel ID, and the channel ID is the room ID, ID here, right? Ooh, someone chatting. Right, so let's test it, right? Test. Open the database. The user here, you don't see the room field at all. right? You see the flashing, right? You don't see the room view. And in the room, you don't see the area here is empty. They are all empty, right? So let's actually join the server. I'm gonna join the server. So I am Khóa. It's no, right? I'm gonna join Chrome. Woo! Welcome Khóa to Chrome. Woo. So now this is the room object, the specific room. For example, you have one member inside that, so you can count the length here if you want. You also have the name of the room, Chrome, and you also have the ID of the room. You can have more information about the room, right? Cool. So it only send to that channel. Yes, we. Okay, now if you take a look at the database, and I'm gonna refresh, and if you take a look at the Chrome, you see one element, one user in that. If you write down correctly and clearly, it helps you a lot. That's why you should have comments inside your code, right? Okay, and user here, I rarely run into problem with the backend. Oh, right. So for user, if you refresh, you have the room here. Khoa just subscribe to this room, and this ID should belong to the Chrome room. Cool. Right, we will have one more step to leave the room, but for now, let's take a break. It's quite long for this one. That's why I say this join the room has so many steps, but some of them is very simple, but some of them require a lot of logic. So, do you have any question? Select that one, yeah. The hard part is like how you break it down. Yeah, the like if you have a very big problem, right? You have to break it down like into multiple smaller problems, and that's how you solve a big problem. So here we go. But the difficult part is like how you break it down. Like when you want to join a room, what happened? You have to think what happened when you join a room, like grammatically. Okay, if you are just a normal user and when you click on joining this room, like you have no idea what's going behind the scenes. Actually, there should be more stuff going on, but these are kind of like the basic one. All right. Do you have any question about the class here? You don't have any question at all about the classes? Uh, right. If you don't have any question, I'm gonna stop the video. And if you have question, ask in the next video. Right. So see you guys later. Stop sharing and stop.